is Valerie White Williams, and today I'm getting back to doing a celebrity astrology reading, this time for singer Adele. Now, Adele was born Adele Laurie Blue Adkins, and she was born in a suburb of London, England on May 5th, 1988. So the first thing I like to do when I do an astrology chart is I want to look at the overall geometry of that chart. Now, basically what you have is, the sun is on the horizon, and that's the ascendant to the descendant. And so it looks like most of her planets are up on the upper level, and she has some on the lower level. And when we're on the upper level, we're actually focused more on society, really. And then we have different quadrants. So we can split the chart into that horizon. We also can split it from the midheaven down to the IC. And so things that are on the right side, as you look at the chart, are more relationship, dealing with people. And then we have on the left side of the chart is more personal, more introverted. And so you see there's kind of like the seesaw effect of her chart, where we have a lot of personal planets in the fourth quadrant, which tends to be more introverted but focused on society as well. And then we have on the other side, we're in what we call kind of on the descendant, and also down in the second quadrant, lots of also what we call oppositions. So there's like two parts of her personality, is that there is the quiet side that needs to be intuitive, and also the social side and moving with people. Now, interesting that she has no planets in the first quadrant, and that first quadrant tends to be with people that are finding themselves. They're working to be okay in the world, and she's already there. She doesn't need to work on that, which is quite interesting. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Now, before I talk about it, the way I look at the astrology chart, it's kind of like a set of a movie or a play. The planets are like the characters of the movie, the villain, the romantic partner, the friend, and then they're going to be set in the various houses, which is like sets of a movie. It could be the performance stage, or in a romantic relationship, things like that. And then the sign is like the flavor. It's like the actor, which actor you're going to cast to play these parts. Because to me, the signs are the least important. I mean, they send you flavor, but it's not quite where you're focused on in this life. That's why I think the house positions are really important. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the sun sign, and that's what most people think about astrology, is it's a sun sign. It's going to be, that's who you are. But unfortunately, there's a lot more to astrology than sun sign. What I think about the sun sign, it is the hero's journey. It is here where you're going to strive to make a mark on the world. And it's not going to be easy. In the moon sign, that makes it easy, but the sun sign is really striving to grow. Now, interestingly enough, Adele is a Taurus, which really suits her because she always have had this strong presence. And Taurus is also what we call fixed earth. And it always has a sense of the throat, the voice. Taurus, for some reason, is always musical and sensual. So there's a lot of sensuality in the Taurus. Now, her sun sign is solidly in the 11th house. And the 11th house is one of those houses that's a little bit mysterious, meaning that I think it's been underrated. People would say it's about friendship or community. But the 11th house is really about understanding that we are all one. And we have, it's kind of like the Native American or the indigenous culture realizes that the whole earth is holy and is all sentient. And so the people that have sun in the 5th house, I think in this culture feel a little bit not understood, because they have this sense of community with all things, but our culture doesn't really honor that. Now, I'm guessing with that sense, she probably lives in the country and has a place where she can live with nature. In fact, that's a real big theme in her chart, is that she's very sensuous. And I mean that in the food and drink and beauty and being in a place that feeds that soul. And the degree that she is, and I'm going to talk about the degrees because my teacher, Connie Kaplan, who is an American mystic, also a scholar, has a system where each of the 30 degrees covers an evolutionary journey of the soul, which is really great. It makes it 3D. Now, the interesting thing about her sun sign is in the degree of 15 degrees. And that is what she calls resistance. Basically, people that have 15 degrees on their astrology is an energy generator. It's kind of like she can make things happen. So having sun with 15 degrees resistance is she's able to energize things to her. And sometimes it's because she's got to put her foot down and then make it happen. So she makes things happen. And so, yeah. So let's go on to the moon sign. And the moon sign is really the opposite of the sun sign. Sun sign's taking action. It's moving towards a goal. Moon sign comes naturally. You don't have to do anything. It's reflective. The moon shows where you comfort yourself and what comes naturally. You're reflecting that. And her moon sign is in Sagittarius, which is really different than the sun, because Sagittarius is mutable fire. And I'm filming this right before the lunar eclipse, which is also in Sagittarius, which is kind of interesting. Coincidental, I think. So the moon is more reflective, and that moon sign is, let me check here. It is in Sagittarius, and it's in the degree of 28 degrees, and it's firmly in the 6th house. Now, the 6th house is another house that I think is a little bit interesting to talk about. And she's actually got a lot of planets in the 6th house. And the 6th house talks about organization, work environments, health, fitness, and animals. So I'm assuming, I haven't done any research, that Adele has a real strong affinity with animals, with pets. She might have grown up with them. She might still be living with them. And that mutable fire takes action. So she's really focused on putting her ducks in a row, that she's going to create structure in her life, but in a really creative way, because Sagittarius is fiery and it's passionate and it shows. She might actually help others in her life get their act together, get organized, get fixed, get things going. Fitness, getting going and making habits, because that's what the 6th house is about. It's about habits and structure that help us in life. And it's related to Virgo, which is putting things in order. So higher passion of sharing what she knows on how to put your life together. Really, that's it. And the degree that she has is 28. And 28 is considered love, not the romantic love, but love that's the glue of the universe. So there's a lot of wisdom in her moon. And I think when she speaks, people listen, and she's helping people, and including herself, making a life that is structurally clean, but with passion, because that's what that fire is. There's a lot of passion and energy. And she probably likes working out, doing some sports that are really high energy, could be with animals, and it gives her nurturing, because the moon is where we nurture ourselves, which is pretty interesting there. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is the midheaven. Now, Connie, my teacher, calls this the Holy Trinity. This is kind of where you came to do and be. And these are like kind of strong. And the midheaven is on the very top of the chart, and it opens up to the 10th house. Now, the midheaven is kind of what you are here to do. What Connie says, it's like you are coming from that place, and you're a missionary to share your gifts with the world. And her midheaven is, let me find it, in Pisces at 1 degree. Now, I've seen 2 different charts, and so I'm not 100% sure if it's 1 degrees or 0 degrees, but I'm going to go for the 1 degree. So it's in Pisces, and 1 degree is considered innocence. Now, let me talk about Pisces. This is another mutable sign. So Sagittarius is mutable. And let me explain what the mutable signs are, because all the planetary energies come out as cardinal, which is taking action, fixed, which holds the energy, and mutable, which shakes it up and shares it to the next creation cycle. So we have 2 major placements that are mutable. And Pisces is artistic. It's moving back to the one. It's mutable water. And it's kind of that oneness. So Pisces is very creative. It's very spiritual. It's obviously very musical. So that makes sense that she's had a lot of career. So of course that midheaven going into the career house, or I like to think of it as your legacy, because not everybody has a career, but you have a legacy. And so that legacy is in the arts, which is obviously very clear. And also with that Pisces in what we call innocence is basically an archetypal energy. And people that have innocence are, not that they're innocent like, we think of it as a human thing, but you're here and there's this kind of amazing energy that you're going to learn and grow and feel. Also refers to the heart energy. So it's a very primal energy that is not innocent as we think of without flaws, but fresh here to learn and grow. So that is her midheaven. And we kind of return to our, when we go, our soul group is related to the midheaven, the 1 degrees, especially 1 degrees Pisces. All right, so now I'm going to go into the personal planets. And the personal planets are really related to our body personality and kind of what we came here to do. So I'm going to start with Mars, because that's how Connie likes to think about it. And Mars is considered kind of the male energy or anger issues or things. But I like how she describes it as the physical body. Mars is the physical body. Venus is the emotional body. And Mercury, of course, is the mental body. So her Mars is in, let me find it right here. Mars is in the 9th house, and her Mars is in Aquarius. It is 19 degrees Aquarius in the 9th house. So I'm seeing that she was very bright. She really is interested in what we call higher knowledge, maybe religion, spirituality, was a good student, but was also kind of quirky, because Aquarius is fixed air. And that's interesting because, a lot of the Aquarian energy is coming on strong now, the age of Aquarius. And so it's interesting because she also has squares there. So even though she probably was a little bit bright student, she might have been one of those people that just kind of didn't buy all the things at school, or like she had her own ideas. And so even though she has a lot of energy to learn, it didn't always maybe work for her because it was just a little bit out of the box. And it's interesting that where it is in that placement, because again, we have in different parts of the chart, you see a lot of those planets there on the descendant, and then we have a lot of planets over there on the 4th quadrant, and the Mars is just kind of hanging out there. But of course, we're going to use all of that, and it seemed like she would have a lot of energy to learn, and there's a lot of physical energy. So she might have studied in music, or I'm not quite sure, but there definitely shows a drive and some energy to discover some secrets or discover more about humans. Or also that 9th house is involved with traveling. You're going to travel to different cultures, and maybe traveling, getting that travel bug in the physical body to learn about other cultures because you just love the experience. And it's, again, a bit of a mental side to that Mars energy to understand. All right, and with a degree, what did I say? That was in service. 19 degrees is service, which means she is here working for humanity in a higher level. And so the learning, the physical learning and traveling is going to serve her whole purpose in life. All right, so next I'm going to talk about Venus. Now her Venus is in the 12th house, and that 12th house Venus is in Gemini, which is interesting. So the 12th house is kind of that mysterious house, which is going back to the one. And a lot of my videos, if you watch my other videos on the 12th house, I do not agree that it's this horrible house and it's like hidden enemies and you're not going to live. I think back in the day where people went into insane asylums, that might have made sense. But I call the 12th house the house of the mystic, because all the planets in the 12th house, or we all have that, is understanding the oneness of everything. We're all in the cosmic sea. And again, the 12th house corresponds to Pisces. So that cosmic sea is where her emotions are, which tells me that people that usually have Venus in the 12th house, it's hard for them to find people that really get them. Like they feel misunderstood sometimes. And Venus also can reflect your ultimate partner, like where you're going to find your partner. So obviously Adele's looking for soulmates, people that get her in a very deep way. She's not artificial, because that 12th house is deep. And a lot of people that have 12th house planets feel misunderstood in life because their wavelength is so different. Now, her sign is in Gemini, and Geminis like to think and analyze. So I'm guessing that she secretly does a lot of spirituality and maybe is a researcher and keeps it kind of quiet, because that's the other thing. When people have a lot of planets in the 12th house, they're not going to talk about it. They need a lot of alone time to process and feel things. And so it's going to be private. Most of those 12th house planets and people that have 12th house planets are not going to share it unless they trust you and they know you very deeply. But yeah, she's probably doing that on her own. And let me look at the sign, the degree. Let's see. All right. It looks like 23 degrees. I'm going to have to put my glasses on for just a second to see it. Yes. Yeah, her Venus is in 25 degrees. Now, 25 degrees is actually desire. Now, the desire is not like I want stuff. It can start that way. But the desire to understand God, or the God of your heart, or mysticism, which makes sense, that desire to know, desire to become one. So I think Adele is somewhat of a closet mystic from looking at her chart right there. All right, so now I'm going to go into Mercury. And Mercury is the mental body, how the mind expresses itself. And the mental body is also in Gemini, although this Gemini is in 1 degree. That's right. Let me check. Glasses. So I'm going to check. Glasses on. Here we go. Yes, I was right. 1 degrees. So 1 degrees is another duplicate from her midheaven, which is an innocence. So again, fresh, archetypal, strong. And the archetypal energy gives her this solidity as well, and also reaching out to learn and grow, and also the 12th house. So there is some overlap there, and that Mercury studying. So I do get a sense that she is a student of spirituality. She may not show that in her music yet, but there is a sense of research there and learning and questioning things and learning, always learning and putting her print. You're always improving things, and loves to think about mystical things. I know, who knew, right? But again, those things are private. and she probably needs a lot of time to think and process. And that's why her music is so great, because she's spending a lot of introverted time to incorporate what she's doing as a career. All right, and then the last thing I'm going to talk about in this section is what we call the Ascendant. And the Ascendant is basically showing your physicality and your approach to life. Connie calls it your ethical body. It's how you approach things, how your approach is. And her Ascendant is in Cancer. Cancer is cardinal water, and it refers to the mother. It's very nurturing. So women take action with protecting their young, making things taken care of. Okay, not just mothers, but basically you're going to take action to protect. Now, interesting, as you look at her face to me does look very Cancerian. She's got big eyes, round cheeks, round face. You see a lot of lunar qualities in her face right there. I don't have that, but you can see that with her. And so her ethical foundation is to care, to take care of people. Cancers are typically very extroverted, but they will do what they need to do to take care of those they love and protect them and be nurturing. And actually building wealth too, because Cancers take action to build a nest egg for things. And so her degree is also, it's in Cancer, and it is 5 degrees. So let me make sure. Dun, 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 dun. Yes, 5 degrees, and that is what's called extension. And so it kind of corresponds to the plant devas, the fairies behind the plants that are populating the earth. And so people that have that 5 degrees are duplicating, they are opening up, they know how to create in a way that is duplicatable and is structurally sound. So that's also quite interesting. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about what we call the later planets. Connie calls them the universal principles, and they're kind of like watching in the background. They're kind of like our fairy godmothers. They don't influence our personality as much, but they're going to watch around us. So I'm going to use her also degrees and focus kind of like the birth journey, which I think is very, very powerful. Okay, so we're going to start with Neptune. So Neptune is kind of about spirituality and the cosmic sea. And the Neptune energy comes while you're in the birthing canal. What Connie says is we're kind of a soul group of people that have the same degrees in Neptune when we were born. And so we kind of have that soul group. And what's interesting about her is you can see there's a bunch of planets in Capricorn right there. And that generation had Capricorn in Neptune, Saturn, and also Uranus. And so that's a real strong energy. And so her generation is really tuned into changing this earth. And it's in Capricorn. And Capricorn is about cardinal earth, just like Cancer is cardinal water. So that's changing structures. This is why the generation that she's in is all about making a new world that works for everybody. So that's interesting. So her Neptune is in the sign of reciprocity. So reciprocity is all about karma coming and going. Maybe not karma, but balance. I think of the yin yang, things come in, come out, and having things be in balance. And that Neptune energy, the Neptune energy is in the 7th house. And that's the house of the partner, of people that you work with, people that you marry, partnerships. And so for her, she's looking for partners that understand that commitment. It also refers to music and art and film. So her partners and colleagues that she works with are going to be people that understand spirituality or mysticism in a way that she feels comfortable and also they're very, very artistic. And that reciprocity is a key value that keeps people from connecting. Now, people that have reciprocity in the seventh house, again, are going to be really easily attract people that will work with you, because we have this flow of in and out and in and out. So those people are going to be attracted to her. People that have planets in the seventh house tend to attract people for their goals and their partnerships. All right, and so the next one I'm going to talk about is Saturn. And Saturn is right down below. They're almost like cousins there. Again, but Saturn in this point is under the water. It's going to be in the sixth house. So they're kind of next to each other. And the sixth house, again, is putting things in order. But even though she had Moon in Sagittarius, now the Saturn is in Capricorn. Now, the interesting thing about Saturn in Capricorn is that it's in what we call the rulership, because Saturn and Capricorn have a relationship. So she is super solid about building. Now, the thing about Saturn, though, is Saturn is a time lord, because we don't really have time in this reality like we think we do. But the time lord aspect is, with Saturn, it's usually something that you need and want to do, but it takes time to do it. It takes discipline. And so where Saturn hits your chart is where it's not easy and you have to work hard to get it. And so that's what Saturn is. And her Saturn is in Capricorn. And let me look at the degree. Her degree is in 2 degrees. And that's what we call purity. It's one step beyond innocence, but it's still in this archetypal realm that is also the nature spirits. You still get this archetypal innocence and purity and the structure of I'm here for a purpose. And so for her, she's going to work and structure what she wants in a very systematic and clear way. And she won't second guess herself, because that purity, you know this is right, and it's strong and it's structured. So again, she's so close to the descendant, so they're almost connected, but she's more focused on that structure of the life and the health and the work ethic. So she's got an incredible work ethic that is helping her drive her career forward. All right, so next I'm going to talk about Uranus. Now, Uranus is the planet of sudden inspiration. Boom. And there's Uranus right there. So they're all like in this little ring right there. And Uranus is also in Capricorn, which is interesting because Uranus is usually like really explosive, and Capricorn is really solid and steady. So that's interesting. But for her, they're going to all work together. And sometimes the thing about Uranus is that it's like an insight. It's not like going to like change your life like an earthquake or something. But there are going to be times where you're just going to get this insight flash and go, oh, I get it now. And so for her, it's going to be that insight flash about working with others, getting that coordination going, and just going, I get it now. I get it. I'm going to transform my life, and this is something really different. All right. So, and then her degree is in, let me check. Her degree is in 0. And 0 degrees is what's called placement. And so placement is like, I am on the ground, feet on the ground, solid. I'm here. And that's what she is. She has that solid energy. So I imagine when she works with her team, because obviously she's at the career where there's a team of people working with her, she's pretty involved in how things go. And when she has these insights, boom, that's it. That's how it's going to be with that structure of Saturn as well as Neptune. There's a lot going on over there. And again, that focus there is a bit more extroverted, where her personal planets on the other side are more introverted. So there is a bit of maybe conflict or balance between her private life and her public life. And so I see all those planets there, the Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, are really about managing, all that management of her career to put that in place. All right, so now let's go on to Pluto. Now, Pluto is another planet that's kind of by itself in that 5th house, and her Pluto is at 11 degrees Scorpio. Now, Scorpio is fixed water, so it's very deep, it's very intense. It kind of needs to isolate. And Pluto is the planet of transformation. It's where we have a death and rebirth. So we're going through something that's kind of something we have to go through. It's kind of like the Persephone's journey underneath the underworld. So Pluto represents how we transform ourselves, how we deal with trauma, and we need to come through it. And so Pluto here in the 5th house represents her creativity, because the 5th house is all about creativity and romance. And so what I see is that Pluto is where she goes to recharge. So again, there's that death and rebirth. So she's going to come down and kind of do some self-healing, because that's what Pluto asks us to do. And the way she does it is to dig into our artistic creativity, because that's what that 5th house is all about. And you can see there's a lot of that angst and churning in that 5th house to share with the rest of the world. And that sign is in Scorpio. So that's kind of like a double meaning, because Pluto has some correlations with Scorpio. And so she's going to isolate herself, go into her studio, write, recreate something that is going to renew her, because that's what Pluto does. And the degree is 11, and 11 represents flowering. And flowering is that energy that is creative and moves to something else. So she's going to kind of dive deep in the isolation and come out with this beautiful thing that she can share with others. But you have to dive down deep to come back and share that with the world. And interesting thing, you can see that opposition from that diving deep, isolating, to her sun sign and Jupiter, which is what I'm going to talk about next. So with the oppositions, people think of it as kind of like a seesaw, either or, but oppositions are balance. It's about bringing things into balance. And yeah, it's hard because you're going to go on either side of that polarity. But that Scorpio plutonic energy in that 5th house is she's always regenerating some new growth. And it comes from some personal things. You know, as you can hear in her music, the personal growth is going to be shared in her art form, which is, we're blessed. And then Jupiter, so let's go talk about Jupiter. Jupiter is the sign of benevolence. It's where things come easy to you, where like the gods has shown benefits in this part of the world in their house. So she has Jupiter in Taurus. It's really close to her sun, which tells us that she's had some luck in her life. You know, her mission in the sun sign is aligned with Jupiter, which is very beneficial. It's kind of like the gods have shined down on her to give her a lot of these opportunities that will work. And her Jupiter is also in Taurus. Again, fixed earth, solid. Now the thing about Taurus is they don't move fast. They move slow, but they plod along steadily, and they're going to reach their goal. They're really, really, really consistent. So Jupiter also there has that quality of being strong and get there with hard work and determination and goal setting. And again, it's in the house of the 11th house. And that's that house of humanity in the world. So there is some feeling about, I'm here to help the world. She's using her own personal experiences with that Pluto in the 5th house to actually allow herself to create music that is helping people, because that's what it's about. I mean, and she's opening up her heart and her emotion to create music that a lot of people can relate to. Because when you do something that feels very personal as an artist, the result is that people are going to feel that and they're going to relate to it, so it becomes universal. And that's exactly what that 11th house is. It's this kind of universal house where everything on earth is, she's working in that mode of really being a healer through her art. And let's look at the degree. The degree is 13 degrees. I think I'm reading that right. 13 degrees. Now, 13 degrees represents intelligence, but not nerdy brainiac intelligence, but putting things together, which is another theme I see in her chart, is that she is able to put teams together and bring people together to support her career. And so bringing things together and aligning them has been really important for her. So she's got a knack to getting great support in her life, in her career particularly. So it's really fun to see. All right, so lastly, I'm going to talk about a couple other things. We're going to talk about the nodes, the moon's nodes. Now, the moon's nodes are on a polarity, and you can see that thing that has a little thing right at the top, right by the midheaven. That's the north node, and then on the bottom, directly below it, it's the south node. Now, the south node represents where we've been, where we are typically comfortable, and where we can kind of not make changes. Where the north node is pointing out where we are supposed to grow in this life. I know some astrologers that say, just look at the north node and then that's the key to your chart. So her north node is in Pisces, and it's in the 10th house, which is the career house, which represents her focus is building a career as an artist, because Pisces is all about the arts. The south node is in the 4th house, which is the house of security and home. So that would make sense that, she came from a secure home. She's been involved with the home. But if you're going to stay there with the home, not that you're not going to be there, but if you're going to be focused in that 4th house, you're not doing what you came here to do. You're here to be on that career path and be seen as an artist. And to be honest, I actually have my north node in the 10th house as well. So I totally relate to that, because when you're in the south node, things feel sluggish and things just feel like you're plodding along, even though it might be comfortable. North node is where you're supposed to rise to and achieve what you came here to do. Not like we have to achieve everything. It's not like winning an award, but to actually fulfill your soul's purpose is what we're talking about. All right, so the other thing I'm going to look at is Chiron. Now, Chiron is an asteroid, and it's considered the wounded healer. So where Chiron shows up is where you have been wounded, usually from childhood. There's something that wasn't there. You heal that, and then you start sharing with others. Now, again, it's interesting to note that Adele has her wounded healer in the 12th house again. And it's very close to her Venus, and they're both in 25 degrees, which is that desire of wanting to create, just desire of actually oneness with spirituality. So it's really interesting. I see so many signs about that Adele is a very spiritual person. Now, a spiritual person can mean a lot of different things, but just the cleaving, wanting to feel the oneness of humanity. And that's what she has. Now, with the wounded healer there, it would suggest that her early childhood, she didn't really get a sense of a connection. I don't know if she grew up in a religious house, or maybe she felt somewhat blocked from the mystery of life. And so as she's grown, she is going to bring that to heal in her music, because here's the thing, music is spiritual. Pisces is related to the 12th house because it's that oneness of everyone, the cosmic sea. And so it's kind of aligned with her Venus in Gemini. They're both in Gemini. And so again, Gemini is really nerdy and really likes a lot of writing, is very interested. It also talks about writing. She's a great writer. And so kind of bringing that all in is really healing for her. And again, she needs that private time to create and feel. And I did forget one thing when I was talking about her Mercury. Her Mercury is also in its what we call exaltation or prime. It's not like exaltation. Her Mercury is in the sign of Gemini. And that's a really powerful placement because it's the ruler. Gemini and Mercury is a ruler, just like her Capricorn is also in Saturn. So that's also a rulership. So it's very, again, archetypal. I think I'm saying that right. And that's another theme I see in her chart, that she's almost like this nature spirit, but had a really clear vision of creating these beautiful structures and songs, and how she lives her life and reinvents herself every certain times. And she's back, she goes down, comes back with that Pluto. So this has been a very interesting chart to see. So if you're interested in getting your own reading, I have a link below and you can contact me for doing the same type of astrology reading as Adele. So let me know if this resonates, makes sense. I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. All right, take care and I'll see you next time. Bye.